Welcome back to another episode of the Meal Prep Perspective. Join me as I share my process to make healthy, delicious meals that aren't boring, bland, or basic. Living in the hustle and bustle of NYC, I found preparing food for my busy week helps provide the clarity I need to focus on what matters to me, helping people establish health-promoting behaviors like learning to strength train and preparing healthy meals. I've been meal prepping for a decade, working as a personal trainer for over 6 years, and I studied public health nutrition in grad school. I love combining my health, fitness, and nutrition worlds to promote preventative health practices that can lead to improved health outcomes. Okay, enough about me. Let's get into what I'm meal prepping and the process I'm following. I'm starting it off with getting some white rice into my rice cooker. This is a great thing to start first because it'll continue cooking without my constant attention. Next, I'm gonna shave some asparagus. I'm gonna use it in my lunch meal, which is lemon basil and grilled chicken pasta salad. I knew I wanted to cut the asparagus very finely, so I wanted to try using the mandolin insert on my food chopper, and I tried it for a bit, but I didn't love how it was turning out, so I switched to manual mode, cutting board and chef's knife. Which honestly ended up being so great because I was really able to control not only the angle, as you see here, I went for like a really sharp angle, but also the thickness. I wish it would have worked out on the mandolin better. Probably would have if I would have been a little more patient, but instead I just kept chopping, and then I decided I would try the mandolin one more time because maybe now I have the angle correct, and I just abandoned ship. I just keep going in manual mode, but this time on turbo speed. And that's it, we're all done chopping. I'm gonna switch this out of my glass bowl into my Cambro container because I need my glass bowl for my ice bath. You'll see in just a second here. I've got my water boiling on the stove. I'm going to blanch this asparagus, so it's just going in for a quick boil and then it's going into an ice bath. I'm also adding in some basil here. I really wanted to just mix the two together and figured this way my basil will keep its color. So we're really only here for just a few seconds. Then we're gonna drain. I got some help from my husband to hold the camera. Thanks, babe. And then out of the strainer and right into the ice bath to stop the cooking. And this will help maintain that color on both the asparagus and my basil. Could do the same method if you were making pesto and you wanted the basil to maintain its color. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Honestly, it's really usually just a time thing. So yeah, this will definitely keep the color here. So now that I've cooled that all down, I'm gonna leave it in my strainer for a few minutes. There's still some ice cubes left in there, it's fine. And I'll check on my husband. He's on grill mode. He's got our chicken and our onions cooking on the grill. Thanks, honey. Also, just for the record, I personally love grilling, but it's really nice to just give my husband a task that he enjoys, and so he can also help with meal prep. And you know, just saying, he will absolutely help with meal prep. He does not like being on camera, so that's usually why y'all don't see him. All right, what I'm getting out is my ingredients for tiramisu overnight oats. Oh my gosh, these were divine. I think I learned my lesson though. For me, I could have done half of this amount. I think if I make these again, I'll make them in the smaller part of my container and not the big part. They were delicious, but definitely a sweetness overload, and sometimes I just don't like all that sweet for breakfast. So either making this smaller portion or pairing this with something that's savory for breakfast, that would have been a bigger hit for me. But the oats themselves, delicious. You should definitely make them. Okay, let me tell you what I did so far. First, before I did anything, I brewed all this instant coffee. Definitely you can use espresso if you want to. You have an espresso machine. I don't have an espresso machine at home, so I just used brewed coffee. Then I added oatmeal into my container, followed by chia seeds, then added that brewed coffee in. I also realized that I forgot I wanted to add vanilla, so I added some vanilla in, and then I gave them a stir. I did the same thing for my husband's portions. He doesn't really like coffee as much as I do, so he got less coffee. He's not a fan of coffee, so he got coffee with some extra water, so he got the flavor but not all the kick of that like really big coffee bite. So I mixed those up and added in some maple syrup on top. So I'll add those into all of them, and I actually ended up adding some more water to mine as well. So I added the maple syrup, then I added some water, and then it comes the fun part, y'all. This is what makes it super fun. I'm using a mascarpone cheese, which is absolutely a classic tiramisu dessert ingredient, pretty much mandatory if you're asking this Italian girl. I had previously used half of the container. I made tiramisu for friends recently, so I'm only having half, and as I did that I realized my water's ready to boil. So I added my pasta in, gave it a quick stir, set a timer, and then came back to my mascarpone because I'm gonna whip this up. Did the husband help her to hold the camera and got to town whipping this mascarpone up. And I always knew I wanted to add in some Greek yogurt here. I knew I wanted to make this really high protein, especially if I was gonna have it for breakfast. I wanted lots of protein in there, so I wanted to whip the mascarpone first, give it a chance to kind of lighten itself up a little bit, like incorporate some air, and then I whisked in my Greek yogurt. We'll add a little splash of maple syrup here. These definitely taste a little better with some sweetness. I didn't want to go overboard on the sweet, but they definitely need some kind of sweetness, either maple syrup or honey. So we'll get that whisked together, and then we'll take them back over to the containers. These are going on the top of our oats. Yay and yum. So I'll add that on top, and I started off with a pretty generous portion, and then, you know, as you even them out a little bit, you kind of realize how much. And I definitely forgot to mix those again. I should have mixed them before I put the stuff on. So you can see I tried to do like a crafty little like mix underneath. And I'll add the rest of the mascarpone and Greek yogurt mix and spread them on top of the oats very gently. And yeah, these are already starting looking so pretty, and rightfully so, because tiramisu is just such a special dessert. It really is something. It feels like a wow, and these felt like a wow. I feel like you could also do them in layers. That would be so pretty. Or you can do them like this and keep it a little simpler. Whatever the case is, this definitely was a great breakfast, and I could also see this being an incredible snack. Maybe the next time I make these, I should make them as like an afternoon snack, because that just sounds delicious. I'll also top them with some cocoa powder, because what is tiramisu if it doesn't have cocoa powder? It's certainly not classic. So I'll sift some cocoa powder on top, and that really made it feel even more special, even more wonderful. Okay, fabulous. Breakfast is ready, and we're moving on to lunch. I'm going to add my pasta that I drained into my giant bowl. I'm going to add that asparagus and the basil, and I thought that I recorded this, but I must not have. So off camera, I also chopped up some red pepper, so I'm adding that in here, and then also a ton of celery, so I'll add that in here too. Sorry for missing that video footage. I couldn't find it. Eek! What I'm adding in here is one of my favorite Italian dressings. This is one from Trader Joe's, but any Italian dressing will do, or you can make your own. I love making my own salad dressing, but when your girl is busy, she loves a pre-made sauce. I'll mix that up really well here. I'll not use all the dressing, I'll save some, and I'll also zest a ton of lemon. This is a really large lemon, and I wanted all that zest, baby. I feel like zest is one of those things that once you start incorporating it into your cooking and your recipes, you'll notice the flavor is just so much more pronounced. There's so much more depth of like the things that you're making. It just takes the juice to another level. It's the best. And speaking of juice, I'll definitely juice both halves of these lemons and stir that in really well. My bowl was really full, and I really wanted to control how much protein I'm going to add into each container. I went ahead and added my pasta and veggie mix in first, and then I'm going to add my grilled chicken in just a second once I get these portioned out. And while I was portioning that out, my husband was cutting up all the grilled chicken he grilled, so I'm gonna add that into my bowl here. I'm gonna add about half, because I'm using the other half for the other meal, for our dinner meal. I'm gonna add the remainder of that dressing onto the chicken here, and that way I know my chicken's covered in dressing too. And that will not only give it good flavor, but it will help it retain its moisture, especially for meal prep. And I also wanted to control how much chicken went into each bowl, so this was a really great way to do that. So reusing the same bowl and just adding the chicken in there made it super easy to portion out my chicken into my containers. Now that I'm done portioning out my chicken, I'm gonna jump to my other chicken, my chicken for dinner. So I'm doing Sweet Baby Ray's. Last time I used this in a video, got lots of comments about how this has corn syrup and bad ingredients, blah blah blah. It's fine. Honestly, the fear mongering around food is exhausting. Are you guys exhausted? I'm always exhausted, and I have a degree in nutrition. So it's fine. I don't think you should eat this every single day of your life because, well, variety and nutrients, whatever, but it's fine. It was delicious. I added some hot sauce, some Frank's Red Hot, and some cayenne as well, and some red chili flakes. I wanted it spicy. So I'm gonna add in half of my chicken and I'll mix it up and I'll keep going. And yes, absolutely, for barbecue chicken, this would have been even better had it been grilled with some of the sauce on the grill, but for the ease of these meals and getting everything done quickly, we just grilled the chicken with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then it's ready to take on the flavor of the lunch meal, of the Italian dressing, and then also the flavor of this barbecue sauce. So that is such an easy way to make meal prep feel so much smoother and less labor intensive, honestly. So now that my chicken's mixed, I've got my grilled onions, and I'm gonna add those into my container first. I'm using my saucy spoon, so they'll get a little sauce, but they're getting chicken on top of them anyway, so totally fine. I'll get all of my onion and chicken portion into my dinner containers, and then we'll be on to the next task, which is spicy rice. Yay, we are in the home stretch, y'all. I've got my rice out of my rice cooker. It's still hot. It just finished cooking. Now I'll get my rice out of the container. I always like to run my spoon along the edge. I feel like it comes out so much easier from the container and doesn't stick as much to the side. So I'll get that into my bowl. Probably could have used a bigger bowl here. I wouldn't have had to do this several rounds of kind of like mixing the sauce in, mix the rice up, but you know, this bowl was already dirty. This chef's trying to be efficient. So I went ahead and mixed the hot rice in, and I decided it also needed a little bit more sauce that was on the chicken. So I added in some more barbecue sauce and some cayenne, and I started portioning it out into my containers. And this chef is done. Yay! This was definitely a quick one this week. I am so thankful that I have my meals ready to go for a busy week ahead, and you will be too. As always, leave a comment. Let me know what your meal prep questions are. I always reply. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye!